All right. Greetings. Welcome all. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource Channel. This is the original channel for Dorsey's Resource. The topic of this video is going to be U.S. court verdict delivers big blow to Google in antitrust case. U.S. court verdict delivers big blow to Google in antitrust case. That's the topic of the video I plan on discussing. But first, as usual, before we get started, I like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information contained herein is not to be construed as legal advice, financial advice, or any of the sort. If you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information. Everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now let's get into the topic. Once again, U.S. court verdict delivers big blow to Google in antitrust case. Now, I don't know if you guys remember. I want to first of all appreciate all my returning loyal subscribers, those who continue to rock with me, those who stay loyal to the channel and stay for updates. Much appreciation. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Just wanted to give my acknowledgement as we get into this topic in particular. But if you all remember, if you know, familiar with my work, when I used to do a lot of videos or a lot more videos consistently, I will bring up a lot in relation to the censorship. But this specifically was not in relation to censorship, but you can say in a way it encompasses that, because I'm going to go over the article. A federal judge ruled that Google used anti-competitive practices to further its monopoly on the web. This article is from August 6, 2024. I'm reading from thestreet.com. I chose that article. There's several articles. You can look up different articles on it. By the way, it says, in Conway Gittins reporting from the New York Stock Exchange. Here's what we're watching on the street today. It says, let me see. Okay, let me see. Is that part in relation? They were talking about this may have affected their stock. By the way, so let me get to the main meat and potatoes in the article. It says, in other news, after a nearly year-long trial, Google has been found to have violated U.S. antitrust laws when it comes to its search business. In his ruling, U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta claimed Google's practices have allowed it to crush its competition. First, I want to say, forgive me for mispronouncing the judge's name. I'm not sure how it's pronounced in particular, but it says, I'm gonna read it again. U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta claimed Google's practices have allowed it to crush its competition and stifle innovation. Mehta wrote, after having carefully considered and weighed the witness testimony and evidence, the court reaches the following conclusion. Google is a monopolist, and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. This is from the article that I'm reading, folks. This is not my words. I'm reading from the article. This is from thestreet.com. The Justice Department argued that due to Google's monopoly, it was able to charge advertisers artificially high prices to place ads on its platform. The DOJ also claims since there was no other contenders in the space, Google didn't have to invest in time or money to improve its search engine. Google, however, maintains it has done nothing wrong and intends to appeal. Its president of global affairs pushed back on the ruling, stating the decision recognizes that Google offers the best search engine, but concludes that we shouldn't be allowed to make it easily available. According to the ruling, Google has an 89.2% share of the market for general search services, which increases to 94.9% on mobile devices. That'll do it for your daily briefing from the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Conway Gittins with the Street. Okay, so that's, I guess, the name of the journalist who reported. Thank you, Conway, for your update on this. Well, I just wanted to tie this in case you all haven't heard. You know, it's been a lot going on with this. Is not maybe getting as much attention because of the election stuff that's going on, but this is something that's very important, including a case that was ruled on not too long ago. It didn't go in favor of a lot of people who are advocates for freedom of speech. However, I mentioned I'll have to find that article. There was a previous ruling by a lower court, which was high up. It was a federal court that found that the Biden-Harris administration had engaged in corrupt practices behind the scenes, censoring people and things. And I have to find the article specifically so I can hopefully read it to you guys, let you guys know, just like I read to you all the other article. But this shows that, like what I mentioned, I didn't want to just sound like I was being picked on when I told you about my channel being censored. And my friend believed when my smaller channel was taken down last year that it had something to do with, even though I'm not a registered voter, but he believed it had something to do with, because he knows that I lean more to the right as far as my political views. My channel was more supportive of Trump, by the way, and he believes I was targeted as a result of that in particular. There's other reasons. My channel was not allowed. I had subscribers, thank you all, who did alert me some years ago that told me that they were able to look up the metrics and see that my channel was being censored and I wasn't getting the types of views. And I even noticed more recently when I did that video after the assassination attempt on Trump's life, that video in particular, I found out that YouTube, which is owned and controlled by Google, had buried my channel in the search algorithm results. When I looked up my channel, I'll periodically do this. Some content creators will do this, and I couldn't find it. Then the second time, third, fourth time I did a search, I was finally able to find it, but I had to keep scrolling down. So they pushed it way down in the search results, and I couldn't even find my other backup channel that I had at the time at Dorsey's Resource 873. So there's more indication my channel was being messed with. And then it's also come out recently. There's content creators, influencers, and I want to say big shout out to you guys that out there that are awake to the truth, that I consider fully awake, not woke on the leftist side, but woke patriots who are fighting for our freedoms, fighting against the New World Order, fighting to expose the criminal cabal. I want to commend you all. You all, there's phenomenal people I've come across that do phenomenal work. I won't go over names right now, but in particular, I've come across a lot of talented people, and they were reporting that Kamala administration, she just picked now the vice president since Biden decided to step down, which I knew that was the play all along. They're not fooling anybody. They use identity politics. They want to push the narrative that, just like with Hillary Clinton, they want there to be the first female president. And it's not that I'm against a woman being president, because there was accusations to try to shame men into supporting Kamala Harris. They'll say a lot of you men are chauvinists. You guys are misogynistic, sexist, racist. No, I would support Kamala any day, or any woman, with that if she was pro-gun, pro-God, family in the Constitution, pro-family structure. By the way, if she was against the borders, if she was for public safety for the entire country, her policies is what I look at. I don't practice identity politics, by the way. So I don't have no problem, nothing wrong with the women being president. Let me say this again. Just like I knew about, I had to tell some people, there was a candidate overseas who was said to be like allegedly a female version of Trump, Marine Le Pen, by the way, who was running against Emmanuel Macron. I preferred Marine Le Pen, but just like over here, I believe, in my opinion, there was discrepancies in their election, even when she ran against him again. By the way, I know that Emmanuel Macron is a globalist connected to the World Economic Forum, just like Justin Trudeau. In case you're not familiar with the World Economic Forum, I encourage you all to do your own homework and research. I've mentioned them. They're tied in with the Bilderberg Secret Society, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. They're like another group that summons every year. They have a meeting, an annual meeting where they summons heads of state, potentates, diplomats, people behind CEOs of major corporations, mayors, governors, influential political leaders from around the world, not just here in the United States, tech industries, people from every industry, from the agricultural, medical field, to dictate and govern a world policy where they want to take over local and state politicians, circumvent the rule of law, and have an authoritarian rulership, by the way, which they accuse Trump of, which is far from true. Trump is not a dictator, and I can prove easily how Kamala Harris, for example, was overseas in Africa. There's still video footage of it, lobbying to African leaders to try to get them to accept this so-called LGBTQ agenda. And as I previously mentioned, African leaders, and one of them did a video. I don't remember his name in particular, and they stated they were not going along. So in response to retaliate, which, if you know anything about the workforce, if companies retaliate against you, that's something that's a big lawsuit. But our own government did this. It's an overreach of power. By the way, this is examples of a rulership, dictatorship. So when they didn't accept this, she said, okay, we're going to withhold aid from you all, critical aid. And these countries are already, poorer than what we have over here. They're second and third class. And she decided to punish them, go back to her overlords, the people behind the curtain that control her, tell her what to do, that are connected to the deep state, the evil criminal syndicate, globalists, and punish these African nations. But yes, she's supposed to be pro-black, pro for the African diaspora. Huh? Yeah, she did this. There's evidence, folks. Not my words. Trump did not do anything like that. So that's indication. And she was lobbying hard to multiple African countries to push something that's from a small demographic of people. Now, let me say, if that's your lifestyle preference, I don't micromanage that. But my whole thing is this: when it comes to these agendas that's being pushed, that's mainly being pushed by the liberal progressive party, what I have a problem with, is I have more of a libertarian perspective. As long as I'm doing my thing over here, I can respect what you do, as long as you don't infringe upon me. But where we draw the line at is where you try to force me to do something. Or, when somebody gets right in your face and they do something disrespectful, you have to check that person, right? You know what I mean? Where this group, organization, is forcefully, which has a lot of power from people behind the curtain that are pushing these agendas, which are mainly being pushed by the liberal progressive party. Because that's another trick that's going on. When I was having a debate with the relative, and they were trying to, I had to evaluate and assess what they were telling me. And they were trying to say, it's Republicans part of this too. No, overall, let me tell you this, and this is what I know to be for a fact. Majority of people, if I was to have a panel discussion, would know that these agendas are being heavily pushed by the Democratic Party, progressive, liberal, heavily pushed with the alphabet community and these agendas. And it's not biblical. I grew up in the church. I was raised in church while I was a preacher kid. My father was an ordained minister. They taught me as a child, and it's funny to see how I see A lot of preachers and people that claim to be Christians are now selling out to the New World Order. And the sad part, folks, I don't even attend church anymore. That shows you how my moral and ethical values, I would say, in my opinion, I'm not perfect, I have my flaws, but it supersedes these people who claim to be Bible thumping, God loving, spirit filled, Holy Ghost, spirit filled Christians. Hypocrites. And sadly, I see a lot of people and a lot of women in my own community claim to be Bible, God fearing. They were just playing all along, folks. Even though, and I'm going to say, I've heard preachers, some preachers, not all criticize and say Trump is not a Christian or who is his pastor. But here's the difference. Trump isn't out there trying to lock up parents for refusing to have their kids have sex changes and things what's going on in California or certain liberal places. Where did all this come from? We point back to Barack Hussein Obama, aka Barry Soetoro, was pushing these agendas when he was in office, by the way. And I hear some of these black people out here say, well, Obama couldn't do anything to help black people. But my friend pointed this out. I noticed, however, why did Obama, if he didn't have this power, went out of his way to specifically push these agendas for the alphabet community? And you mean to tell me he could not pass reparations for the black community? And you give Democrats have colluded where they actually, Biden announced this. I'm not making this up, folks. He announced reparations for illegal immigrants, aliens. Then they had the nerve, as you see in Chicago and other major urban areas that are Democratic controlled, push migrants into black neighborhoods that are already suffering, were already poor. Black people made up a critical part, melanated people, of helping build this country. They named a street in Washington, D.C. after a black man. A lot of people don't know this. They tried to lie about him. They lightened him up. He was really a brother. Helped design the White House. Phenomenal architect, genius. If you're in the D.C. area, you may have seen the street. Benjamin Banneker, named after a black man. Genius construction worker, engineer, architect. Helped design the White House. There's other stories. Black man invented a street light. I could go on and on. Numerous inventions to how black Americans have contributed to America, but are disrespected. And I even see from some of my own, like I get on my friend who's a Republican, a conservative. I've debated him. It's one thing I care about, and you guys know I adamantly support, even though I do lean more to the right than I do the left, is reparations. And Democrats have had a chance. When Obama was president, they controlled the House and the Senate at one time when he was president. Or he could have even passed an executive order. And he makes an excuse and says, I'm the president of everybody. But yet you do all these things for these other groups. And that's not to say I don't want to disrespect my other fellow ethnic groups, my Latino, Hispanic community, the Chaldeans, the Arab community, what's going on. But understand where black Americans are coming from. We've suffered enough at the hands. And when I get a chance, it's just it's sad. I'm gonna go through my neighborhood I'm considering I grew up in. I'm gonna do a live video. I'm planning on this. The church that Trump came to when he visited here, by the way, years ago, was a church that I didn't realize the name had changed because some things that happened years ago. And stuff happens with churches, by the way, because there's politics involved, even with churches, how leaders get voted in or voted out. I don't know all the specifics, but a new pastor took over. But that same church prior to the pastor that took over years ago, the pastor who was the pastor of that, or overseer of that church, it was called Evangel Christian Academy Evangel Church, Evangel Ministries, before the name was changed to the 180 Church. By the way, I went to the school growing up as from 5th grade up to my 9th grade year. 5th grade up to 9th grade. And I'm going to tell you some things, I'm going to share with you, things I've never shared before, by the way. And I'm considering doing this when I get a chance to get some time. You guys have to bear with me. that I may go back to my old neighborhood. I grew up in and do a video over there. I was considering doing even tied in with the old elementary school when my parents going to the hit story. My parents first moved to Detroit. I was raised a Christian, but it's sad that I see the same principles that my relative taught me. I seems like I see them have turned 360 degrees from what they used to pray with me, walk me on my way to school, because they used to have to drop me off at that church years ago. And I used to have to catch a shuttle bus that would take me to the east side where his school was at specifically, because we were known as the west side students. So the students that lived on the west side of the city, they had a school bus that basically would transport us basically to where his school was at, the location I went to. Allegedly, I heard he had another school in Taylor, Michigan at one time. There was some older students, people I came across years ago that told me they knew about the other school. I think I even went to school with someone that told me they went to the other location, and his school in Taylor closed down before the one on the east side of Detroit closed down. And they both are now no longer. Of course, they closed down some years ago, but his school in Taylor closed down prior to the one on the east side of Detroit. By the way, good man. He also had a radio show. He would pray over people. I remember when one of my best friends who grew up in that neighborhood, when his grandfather died some years ago, and I think I can't remember if I think he called in or his mother or someone called in on his the radio show, because I used to listen to Dr. Dobson, Pastor Bogle. I don't remember which station it was. Pastor Bogle was the pastor of that church, and then Dr. Dobson. Some of you are familiar. I know about Jack Vanapee. Rest in peace. He died some years ago. He talked about biblical prophecy. I was familiar with the Bible Prophecy Club. These things was imparted in me from my mother, by the way, who I'm just amazed. I've seen turn 360 degrees, but used to criticize me. But now I'm starting to understand things better. And it's a brother from Detroit, by the way. I'm amazed at the way he articulates himself. And when I listen to him, he's phenomenal, his content. And I think he's actually making a case that he could be the next Kevin Samuels, by the way. But in terms of the message that he delivers, and it hits right on home, the moral and ethical values. But I'm going to tell you the real truth about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is a globalist. Yes, there are people behind a curtain that basically certain people are inclined to tell your presidents and stuff what to do. But you got to understand the difference with Trump. Trump is a maverick. He was already a billionaire. And all this stuff that people try to say, oh, he's a convicted felon, this, that, and the other. But notice before he ran for president, you guys ever notice he was squeaky clean? Wasn't until he ran for president, why did all these groups, he becomes the bad guy? Enemy number one. That's the question I ask all of a sudden. You have to ask that question no matter what aisle of the spectrum you are on. Because no other previous presidential candidate or politician has gone through what Donald J. Trump has endured. And even more recently, it's been confirmed, the FBI confirmed that was an actual attempted assassination. Despite all these conspiracy theories. It's funny, I'm the type that gets labeled conspiracy theorists, but you got all these other nutcases, crazies out here. Now they just say, oh, it was staged when the narrative, because they don't like him, and they just were mad it didn't go the way that they wanted, because they wanted to see him taken out. And there's still a danger, by the way, according to sources out there, that I've heard that Trump has beefed his security up. And I would suggest others out there, if you're podcasters and you have especially if you have a large following, you're a large podcaster, you're conservative leaning, because I'm going to try to go over some of the game plan. But Kamala and this VP that she picked, according to sources out there, he's a pedophile. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at, but they have to have a cover and appear to you some particular way, appeal to you in a particular manner. and you have to research it. What I'm saying, there's evidence out there. But what we do know, there's things based on these people's track records, their history, just like people go over this so-called thing that they're claiming that Trump is in support of this Project 2025. But my rebuttal to that was a lot of Americans, and there was pastors that stood up to Obama. By the way, biblical leaning pastors who are not afraid. I commend true leaders out there who are not sellouts to the New World Order. By the way, that stood up to Obama's, what he was pushing. Dr. Ben Carson has biblical principles, was contacted when he spoke at Obama's prayer breakfast and offers the suggestions in regards to the Affordable Care Act. That's what they called Obamacare at the time. He offered suggestions, said he was contacted by the White House. He was threatened. His organizations were targeted. His 501, his tax exempt status. There was even a separate scandal under President Obama, who claims he had a scandal-free presidency, which is far from true, called the Lois Lerner scandal, where conservatives or people who did not go along with the narrative had their organizations and tax exempt statuses targeted. This was going on, but it was covered up. Our mainstream liberal controlled corporate media was not reporting on this. Very egregious. I called out a lot more of the crimes between Obama, Hillary, the Bushes. You had Operation Fast and Furious that continued from the Bush administration into the Obama administration with Eric Holder, who I hear is actually behind the scenes, former Attorney General Eric Holder, who's been running the operation behind the scenes with Obama and control of Biden. Hearing specific names is being allegedly put out there. And top globalists, their minions and underlings, another one guy out there, Alejandro Mayorkas. There's another one that's being put out there that's involved in child kidnapping rings, child trafficking, ran behind the scenes. And they put this stuff, I had to ask a friend of mine at video games years ago. I know in the game Metal Gear, it's been a while since I played it, but they put subliminal messages and things and tell you what they're doing and what they're into behind the scenes in these secret black projects, government projects. Folks, it's a reason why certain individuals why they use secret security clearances as a disguise to keep you from knowing what's really going on. And I told you guys, Trump, the difference, he's an outsider like Kennedy was. Very similar to Kennedy. There was an assassination attempt made on his life not too long ago. Some claim that it was a hoax. It was not a hoax. I debated. I told someone recently that I talked to, that I met. I won't go into details about our relationship or who they are, because there's bad people that watch my videos and watch my channel that are trying to figure out or try to go after, because I talked with a friend of mine. I have a friend, and I talked to another friend that's basically, because I told them some of the things that I went through, that basically they're watching from the outside looking in, and some things that I shared with them for my security purposes. Because when we put ourselves out there, when some of us stick our necks out there, we become a target. I'm aware of that. I've had people tell me that in the past. I did take martial arts years ago. I don't claim to be invincible. They also have all types of weapons, different weapons they've used overseas, where they've killed people that have spoken out. I had a conversation many years ago with a guy I went to college with. I don't remember his name, when I was meeting up, and I met up with another friend of mine that I was meeting for the first time when I broke the ice. And we were having a conversation, and this guy was telling us everybody who he knew of that spoke out, that they took him out. But I don't let this fear and spookism scare me, because, folks, we will not have a nation. If Kamala Harris gets in, they want you to see, the corporate mainstream media wants you to believe that Trump is this demigod, that he's racist, that he's a dictator, when they're actually, you have to ask the question, why is Obama still in power behind the scenes, by the way? This would make his you're supposed to be have two. He had 2 terms, and they mentioned something when he moved down the street when Trump first became president. He put in a stay behind network to sabotage Trump's administration. They said no president had ever done anything like that before. By the way, this is a fact. We have whistleblowers out there. There's people on records. We have the evidence. In case you don't believe what I'm saying, but I always encourage you guys, because I put in my disclaimer, to please do your own homework and research. And I encourage you all to go to ban.video. There's an emergency message, ban.video. I'm going to try to go over some of the information now from what I remember. But I had a little bit of time before my next stop at work. I still had some time because there has to be a gap or specific time period before I can start this one particular patrol. So I have some earlier time. I felt that's what gave me some time to do a video, but I'm gonna try to wrap things up. I may not get to the comments section like I normally do, but we're facing this emergency alert. They're trying to build a stage to create, and they have the globalists have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, ladies and gentlemen. If Trump does, let's say he does get in office, they're going to activate Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They're going to attempt false flag attacks. That's one of their backup cards they have consistently. They want to attack. They could possibly, just understand these scenarios might not be in exact order, but these are different tricks, tactics they have up their sleeve. There is government operatives. Best believe there's actually paid shields that are out there. And because I've had to tell you guys, I am not one of them. I am not on payroll. Trust me, folks, I'm still punching a clock. If I was on their payroll, I wouldn't have to be doing these YouTube videos. They totally demonetized this channel right here, practically demonetized. Literally, folks, I haven't gotten a YouTube, what they call YouTube check, direct deposit in over a year since they shut my backup channel down, which I guess was in control of my larger channel right here. This channel has been censored, by the way. I went over to meat and potatoes in the I know the title of this video was in regards to Google has dealt a big blow while violating the antitrust lawsuits. But I wanted to give you the evidence that yes, there was a federal court that had ruled already and found the Biden Harris administration. They found them guilty and asked them to stop, and they still didn't. By the way, they're in alignment with the big tech giants. I call them big tech bullies, by the way, because it's going to take some serious action to see that they're properly broken up, they're properly regulated, because they've been engaging not only in antitrust laws, but torturous interference, trying to shut down other media organizations and independent media, by the way, claiming that it's fake news so they can cover up the criminal activities that they're involved with. Yes, we have evidence. When I say we, collectively, people behind the curtain, there's many whistleblowers out there, there's independent media. I could reference, there's so many articles and things that have been reported on throughout the years. So don't play these semantic games with me. We have the evidence. For those non-believers out there, numerous different things. I've covered some of these things, some of these topics in previous videos. When I told you guys, look up the story of Johnny Gosch, the mother Noreen Gosch. Look up that story. She's what led, she lobbied for legislation that led to the modern day Amber Alert system. But they still, the bad guys, bad actors, some of them are still, a lot of them are still in power. They're in key positions, but there's good news. There's people that are waking up. Whistleblowers, I want to encourage you, continue to come out, continue to blow the whistle. The globalists, ruling class, they're in very serious trouble. We are winning big time. So the reason they're going for broke and the reason they tried to assassinate Trump, they're desperate because their factions, their compartmentalization has been broken up. The reason a lot of these pastors are selling out, a lot of them, as I said, are Masons, are part of secret societies. And one in particular, I found out, so pastor of the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ. I saw a short clip of, I was watching a YouTube content creator, I don't remember the name, did a video, and I kind of figured this, I didn't know this, but he said Bishop Drew Shear, the presiding bishop over the Pentecostal denomination of the Church of God in Christ, is supporting Kamala Harris. And I heard he allegedly bullied Bishop Wooden down south to get in line because he's over Bishop Wooden, and Bishop Wooden had basically, I know Bishop Wooden had visited his church because I wanted to come see him one time. He had visited up here in Detroit a while ago, but he's basically bullying Bishop Wooden to basically, Bishop Wooden is one of the few that have been speaking the truth. And I commend Bishop Wooden for this, but I understand the threats that they're trying to take away, or his church's nonprofit status, or perks. I don't know all the details. My father was an ordained minister in the Church of God in Christ. Reason I know some of these things, folks, they were trying to get me to follow in his footsteps. Basically, like I would come across the older church women growing up, the first ladies, church mothers, they call mothers in the church, the older elders, and they would say, "You're gonna be a preacher just like your daddy, or you look just like him." They said, "You're gonna be a preacher just like your daddy." And I said, "Oh no," I said, "That's not for me. You know, I that's not what I wanted to do, basically." But I guess I'm preaching to you all in another way. I'm warning you all. What, ironically, my mother taught me about. My father knew about the New World Order and the Illuminati as well. From what I know, he knew about it and actually was warning me as a child about, he would play these games with me, and now I understand what he was doing all these years later. He would come in the room, he would joke with me and my cousin in Cleveland, Ohio, my cousin Malika. He would come in there, because my aunt, I remember my mom's sister got mad at him one time. He would come in there and act like he was scaring us. He played a boogeyman or whatever. And I got used to it as I got a little bit older. But my cousin, she was almost in tears, like, "Uncle John, don't scare me," or whatever. That's what she calls. My dad was Uncle John to her. He would come, but he would tell me afterwards, he would say, "Let me know if somebody's coming in the room, somebody's touching on you or whatever." He was warning, he was training me as a child, because I didn't understand this, that there was pedophiles and these evil, sick-minded, demonic people. Now, as an adult in my 40s, at 45 years old, I see this now. But thankful my father was warning me as a child. It says in the Bible, "Train up a child in the way they should be, and they will not depart from thee." Bible talks about that. A lot of parents are not training themselves with properly, but at least I was raised with morals and values. My parents, just like many other families, you know, we all fall short of the glory of God. That's why he sent his son to die on the cross, shed his blood so that we all might have life and have it more abundantly. Yes, he forgave us for our sins. But one thing, I was raised with morals and values and ethics. And I can tell you, the Kamala Harris administration, any pastors that support her, you're not biblical. And you're going against, you actually are helping the New World Order. Trump may not be, I would compare Trump to David in the Bible. We know David was loved by God, but he was an adulterer. And David did some things. But you know, the full story, you have to encompass, look at his whole body of work. Look at his policies. They're more biblically principled compared to what the radical left, the Democrat, liberal progressive party is pushing. Folks, if Kamala Harris gets in, I went over this with you before, she's going to get rid of religious freedoms. She's going to push this, more of this. They're going to double down on this LGBT agenda, just like Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan that supports her. That's a globalist, part of the World Economic Forum behind the scenes. She's gonna get rid of religious freedoms. There's gonna be open borders. I told you the crime rate is gonna skyrocket. Remember during the George Floyd riots, Kamala Harris bailed out so-called peaceful protesters. When I compare to January 6th, they were guardian angels compared to the so-called peaceful protesters, not the, I mean, the true peaceful protesters that did not set things on fire and vandalize things. But we know Kamala Harris bailed those people out. We know when she was a prosecutor, and this is a fact, she, with her record, prosecuted people for marijuana offenses, but people that had harsher, who had done worse things according to their ranking system, criminally guilty for murders and stuff like that, she was easier on them compared to marijuana offenses and things. We there's things we can go by. When they tell you about Trump's Central Park 5, by the way, I'm gonna jump to that, and they tell you Trump's a racist. And I heard some of these black people that are saying, trying to tell other black people that are saying that you're aligning yourself with Trump, you're trying to be like the white man. No, one thing I understand my place as a black man, and I'm not trying to be like the white man. I'm one that prefers to actually be behind the scenes. I could have done some of the things to meet him before. They had a black youth event at the White House that I noticed the media at the time wouldn't report on. I only saw Vice media report on it, but the mainstream media would not report. And multiple times, young black Trump supporters, a lot of them sometimes big YouTube content creators, Trump hosted at the White House when he was president. But you wouldn't hear about it, just like when Dr. Ben Carson and former CEO, founder of BET, Robert Johnson, was at the White House to try to work on policies to increase money for historically black college universities. I saw it, the reports from some of the independent media and some of the other media that was, you can say, leans more to the right, and the mainstream wouldn't report on it. And he gave them billions of dollars. Trump explained he made it where historically black college universities, where he was explaining where they didn't have to keep coming back begging the government for money, where he said they didn't have to keep, the way he set things up. So he did. There was a lie where people on the left would try to combat that and say that wasn't true. And you look at the lady, was the young lady from that went to Clark, that goes to Clark University, that spoke at his rally. I found out about, what's her name, Michaela Montgomery, and she's an example, because I had a debate with my relative a while ago when my cousin had visited. We were eating at a restaurant, and I said Trump had given money and helped historically black college universities. When Obama was president, he cut funding from the historic, because I remember when they showed a video of one of the, I think it was it Georgetown, one of the universities, or Howard University, where the students were sleeping in tents, by the way. And then there was also it appears some corruption going on at the school, mismanagement, like a lot of liberal cities, of money. But I do know for a fact Trump assisted them. That's one of the things he did. He championed school choice. By the way, those who are familiar, that's one of the reasons why Andrew Gillum lost to Ron DeSantis. I found out, and I commend 100,000 black women in Florida decided they voted for Ron DeSantis because he was for school choice versus Andrew Gillum. And I asked a friend of mine to explain to me what is school choice, to get at the time in more details. It's one of the things Trump doesn't get credit for that he helped champion. By the way, a lot of other things. When the Platinum Plan he introduced, when Ice Cube was trying to lobby, he said he's not playing this game. He's not a Democrat or Republican. He was supposed to be working with Charlemagne the God. And at the time, this is before Biden and Kamala got in, and they told Ice Cube, they said, we'll meet with you after the election. Trump said, while he was president, he met with them and told them, we'll increase the amount. Worked with Dr. Ben Carson and working on opportunity zones, money for black businesses. And I know others, there were foreigners that were trying to come in and sabotage that. And I saw there was black Trump supporters, I don't remember their names, who were at the table. I saw the reports. were notifying Trump to let him know, because that's one thing we've had to deal with, those who specifically know a lot of Black history, who are very well studied. There's concern we always have other groups that try to come in and take resources that are specifically supposed to help out the Black community. It's not saying that I'm for rejecting other resources going to other communities. Other communities practice group economics very well. That's one advantage they have. When we used to it one time, but we don't anymore. I won't go into all of that. But there were other groups that were trying to come in basically and take the money from the opportunity zones that was specifically supposed to help Black businesses, Black business owners. By the way, this is something that Trump was trying to do for the Black community. Remember, he was getting a lot of pushback from Democrats, by the way. But I saw the videos and the reports, and Dr. Johnson, referencing the former CEO that founder of BET, Robert Johnson, they also call Bob Johnson, was good friends with Hillary Clinton. But when Trump won in 2016, he said, I'm not going to let this stop me. He cared about the Black community so much, he still wanted to get progress done. So despite all the rhetoric and the fighting back and forth, I don't see this from Democrats. I just see, we need to keep Trump from getting in office. Or they try to use fear tactics, shaming tactics with this Project 2025. But that wasn't right what Obama did when he pushed the LGBT agenda on the Black community. And I heard a preacher speaking out recently that it's almost like Black people, you're being blackmailed if you're a Democrat, that you have to support that and go along with that. And if you don't, they're trying to find ways to shun you, ostracize you, or go after your money. And don't get me wrong, that's a small demographic of the country as a whole. I respect people, what they're into, their lifestyles. You're free to do your own thing. Hey, do you at the end of the day. But at the same time, don't use that agenda to force that upon some of us, or punish parents that don't want to force their kids to have sex changes. And you're trying to lock parents up over that. That's going too far, folks. That's where you draw the line. And Obama championed this. And it was pastors that stood up against this. If you all remember Bishop Owens, I think, was one of them. If I can remember, there was another pastor, Pastor Jackson, at the time. I don't remember his first name. There was a group of pastors that stood up, and they were shut down. They were shunned. And I remember there was a mayor, lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas, that threatened to take away pastors' tax-exempt status if they spoke against the LGBT agenda. And that's how they bully churches or certain ministers, pastors, into supporting something that is not biblical. So that ought to tell you folks right there, that's a form of dictatorship. That's authoritarianism. And who supports that? As I just illustrated to you, Kamala Harris was in Africa pushing that agenda. That was not Trump. So if you are a registered voter, and I encourage you to vote, I can't make anyone vote. At the end of the day, that's going to be up to you. But just keep in mind, what I went over is factual information. That if you are a registered voter, and I commend you, I respect the process for those that are involved. Where I make my decision at, it will be an easy choice. So before I shut this video down, I'm gonna go over some of the comments, and I'm gonna get out of here. Together We Are One says, greetings, John. Thank you. So Together We Are One says, yup, Obama rented a house in DC and followed Trump around the globe, undoing everything that he was doing. Trump never got to really be our president because they wouldn't stop messing with him. Yes, says, I'm just happy that I always seem to catch your lives lately. Earlier today, YouTube threatened me after I left a comment about the hurricane. I was going, though. They said it was hate speech. Yeah, I noticed lately they have been censoring comments. They're doubling down. And I just read that article there's another article where they found evidence, and then also the House of Representatives did an investigation. I can't think of that representative. Oh, Jim Jordan out of Ohio and others did a major investigation into the Biden-Harris administration. And folks, I'm not making this up. And this is also a court. I probably should do a separate video. I bookmarked the article, and they found that the Biden-Harris administration had colluded. I already knew this because when Elon took over Twitter, that's where he had revealed through the Twitter files that they were censoring people, they were targeting conservatives. And this even got into violating the election laws. This is forms of election interference. What they try to tell you, everything they accuse Trump of doing, the left, Democratic, liberal, progressives have done this themselves. And there's another, it's been ongoing behind the scenes, that's found evidence of Democrats involved, and I won't go into the details, in some type of corruption. By the way, it's been ongoing, by the way, and I'm gonna just kind of leave it at that. But the evidence is out there. And I just encourage you guys out there, when I give my way in, you might be hearing me talk about politics more often. You can't shut our voices down no matter what you do. We're watching. And one of the things, this scenario I'm going to go over before I shut this video down, they want to cause civil unrest. I have to get some more notes for you guys, but they're trying to, they want to bring in potentially, remember they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, false flag attacks, with it, potentially that could be a truck bomb. They're going to try to, in some instances, they're going to try to blame it on Trump supporters. They're going to activate Antifa or Black Lives Matter. If Trump wins, gets in there, they're going to try to, they're working on trying to kill him again. There's whistleblowers out there. The cabal is these are very evil people that we're dealing with, by the way. And keep in mind, like I said, if you have a big following, you're an influencer, and you're conservative leaning, you lean to the right, beef up your security. Especially if you see we're at the 11th hour before we hit midnight. And folks, these people, they're merciless. Everything they're accusing Trump of, they're guilty of doing themselves. Remember, during the pandemic, they were trying to get him to lock the country down, to pass an executive order. He said no. This is how I proved to a relative. He left it up to the states. He's not a dictator. Stop believing the lies from MSNBC and ABC, all these corporate mainstream media. No, what they're accusing, they're doing themselves. I'm getting word Eric Holder is behind the scenes, former attorney general, and Obama's been commanding the operation, along with Alejandro Mayorkas, who's a globalist, looks like Lex Luthor from Superman, and all these other operatives. These are the bad guys, so you can identify them. Go to band.video for some of the latest up-to-date reports, evidence, and if you don't like the message coming from him, there's other independent media organizations on there that he's partnered with that are getting the word out. There's many whistleblowers who are coming forth. You don't have to be afraid, folks. We're working on ways to provide people protection, to teach you how to become a hard target so you can fight back. But if Kamala Harris gets in there, we lose everything. And I'm going to say to the black women out there, we won't be able to protect you if Kamala gets in there. You've already chosen your fate. And I've been hearing that the black women who've been going against, that's not been getting in line, that black women who support Kamala have been bullying black women who support Trump. I've been hearing about that out there. But just know, there's those of us, seek out the good brothers who will, we're going to try to find a way where we're going to form alliances to get prepared, because we know what side is on the New World Order. And it's definitely not Donald J. Trump. I'm telling you, I know. I've studied the Illuminati for years. I've studied the ruling class elite. You guys have seen me show the books. And I'm going to do another video down the road where I'm going to expose and teach you guys how to identify potential operatives, secret societies, people that There's ways you will know to be able to identify by their policies, by the way they vote, by whistleblowers out there. We have boots on the ground, eyes and ears everywhere. So we know who's doing what. We're able to figure out. A lot of the police and military are awake. They're not completely sold out, as some think. Despite the FBI, it's people at the higher levels that have been infiltrated. But still, things are compartmentalized. We have a way to legally and lawfully turn this around. But you're going to have to warn people. You're going to have to get the word out. Continue to warn your neighbors. This is coming from the left, the radical left, and Democrats have aligned themselves with the New World Order, the mark of the beast, the Antichrist. It's coming from the liberal leftist progressive party. Kamala Harris is not on the side of good. She's connected to the evil criminal syndicate, the globalists. Yes, there's people behind the scenes that we know call the shots, that are behind the curtain. She's a minion. She's one of their gatekeepers. They're underlings. But her, Obama, Hillary, they're not on the side of good. I promise you that. I've called out Bush even, these neocons, these fake conservatives, conservative liberals, these rhinos, Republican in name only. They're not true Republicans. Yes, I've called them out too. Part of the deep state. So it's going to take a collective effort because they're planning civil unrest, martial law, and they may even, if we don't even have an election, they may even be planning. They have different tricks up their sleeve. They also want to bring back the pandemic. They have the monkeypox virus and another bird virus or something they're cooking up. This is real. We know they're going to bring that back. So you're going to have to get prepared for this. We don't have a lot of time, but you're going to need to warn your neighbors. They have concentration camps on standby. The word I'm getting in all 50 states. And they're going to try to, cause civil unrest. But I have to get the information. So for the full reports, go to band.video. Check out AJ. His videos in particular, he can articulate very well what they're up to. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to get out of here. May the force be with you all. And until next time, may God cover you guys. And I'll be in touch. Peace.